No thank you is what I should have said. I should be in bed, but temptations of trouble on my tongue, trouble's yet to come.
One sip,
Bad for me,
one hit,
bad for me,
one kiss.
bad for me. But I give in so easily, and no thank you is how it should have gone. I should stay strong, but I'm weak, and what's wrong with that? Boy, oh boy, I love it when I fall for that. I'm weak, and what's wrong with that? Boy, oh boy, I love it when I fall for that. I'm weak. But I'm weak, and what's wrong with that? Boy, oh boy, I love it when I fall for that.
Dude, are you gonna help or what?
Modern times have made the average American weak and complacent, a shadow of our former glory as a people, which is kind of wild because we're descendants of men who knew how to farm, hunt, fight, and survive with just their bare hands and a few primitive tools. But somewhere along the way, that ball was dropped and it wasn't passed off to us. So as adults, we're having to learn this stuff for the first time. So today we're gonna go over the 3 main survival skills that every man should know: fire, water, shelter. The best part is the tools that you need are very accessible and very affordable. Now, are we going the most primitive method possible? No, because we want people who have never done this before to get their foot in the door, to get their feet wet. And the best way to do that is with basic modern tools. And once they get into it, then they can dive deeper into the principles behind it, get back to the roots of primitive forms of doing this kind of stuff, and even more advanced. Let's start with shelter and catch up with Josh. Saul, dude.
What's up, dude?
All right.
It's been raining earlier this morning. I kind of want to get a tarp up. It may start raining again here soon. Ponchos. They're incredibly cheap, probably because they're so popular. Darn near every military in the world has been using them at least since World War II. And because they're so popular and because they're so cheap, while there's a million different ways that you can set up a shelter, either Gucci or primitive, we're just gonna be working with this today.
So one thing before you put any kind of shelter down, just check the trees around you, make sure nothing's dead, make sure nothing's gonna fall on you. I know that sounds super simple. I've camped out in the woods many times, but I didn't ever think about that until I took an agonic class from Mitch, actually out on our property. And I set up my poncho and he was like, cool, look at that. And sure enough, a big wind came through that night. So just check your surroundings. It's all good here. So one thing Josh has done here that we like to do with the ponchos is we go ahead and get 550 cord. Did you cut those to 5 foot? Was that a 5 foot?
These are 5-footers.
5-footer,
Yeah.
and attach those to the corner eyelets. If you have a poncho that doesn't have these eyelets, we'll show you a method to still attach paracord here in a second.
Yep.
But first thing we do is attach those to every corner.
Simple clove hitch, pretty straightforward. And then these want to be organized inside of your pack as well so they don't get jumbled around and pull out your hydration kit or your fire starter kit while you're trying to get a shelter set up.
Oh, and just so you know, while Josh is using all the official knots, you don't need to be a knot master to
Which
do
I am
this
not.
stuff.
I am not a knot master.
Compared to me, you still are. I just do jerry rig knots, which is not ideal because you can't quickly put them up and you can't quickly take them down. So in your spare time, instead of doom scrolling, maybe you look up some knots, and that's advice for me as much as it is for you guys.
So,
all right, so what are you doing?
Because it's fairly warm out, I want airflow coming through and under the tarp or poncho. So I'm gonna get this first side set. What I'm gonna do is go over again, and then I'm gonna go over through that hole and back through the hole that I already established. I'm gonna tie that tight. And what that's gonna let me do is keep tension on this line, but this can actually shift up and down. So if I need to actually move that far corner of my tarp, or I wanna raise it or lower it, I can buy myself a little bit of space, shimmy that down, cinch it back up.
And it's pretty hot out here right now. Let's say it's in the mid 70s, so it's actually not that hot. It's not gonna get that cold tonight, so I think you're setting this up elevated.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So if it was colder, you'd wanna take this down to where you have edges touching the ground, and then you can throw, like out here, pine needles or any kind of debris or logs to kind of keep that tent that you've made pinned to the ground to keep airflow off of you. One of the things that is very handy is a line kit. You may have heard that referenced, or you may have seen that before. All that is a collection of paracord that is tied off in a way so that you can access it super quickly. So Mitch actually recommended a 5-foot long kit and a 10-foot long kit. So I brought the 10 one out here today. I left the 5 at home, which is dumb because 5 is way more valuable than 10.
I need one of these.
Okay.
And I'll show you why.
A 10-footer?
Well, I'm not
dang,
sure yet,
dude.
but I'd rather have the
Dang.
space.
All right, so all you're gonna do is get some basic 550 cord, cut it up into 10-foot sections, burn the edges, and then bring them all together like this. And typically about 10 lines per kit is good. I'll give you a good little bundle. Then a quick way that you can put it all together, kind of get it down on the ground. You're basically just gonna put your foot on one end, twist it over like this, get your hand through that little hole right there, grab that bundle and cinch it down. Hand through, grab bundle, cinch down. You can kind of tighten it up depending on how loose or tight you want it to be. Obviously the tighter it is, the more compact the whole kit will be. But you're just doing this over and over and over again. Just want to take out some of that slack. There's competitions where dudes can try to see how fast they can do this and like compete with one another. I would obviously lose, but basically as simple as that. And as you near the end of it, one last one, just grab it and pull it through. Now you've got your lines all nice and together. You can roll them up, throw them in a cargo pocket, throw them in your pack. And when you are ready to pull them out, you just find that end, pull it back through, and then you're good to go. This is why he needed it. He blew one of his holes out.
Or maybe it's shipped that way because it was a surplus item. Regardless, if all that you have is a corner of a tarp or a poncho, no grommet or little eyelet, here's what you can do. We're gonna start with a little slip knot. You guys have probably played with these as kiddos, but I can now shift this up and down. Have you played with that a lot, Drew?
I listened to Slipknot.
Okay. Well done.
I had to hide the CDs from my mom and dad.
And we're gonna make a button. I'm gonna take the earth, I'm gonna put that on the inside, and I'm gonna take my slip knot, throw it over the top, and cinch that down. And now that's all tied off. I'll use a clove hitch over here. I'm gonna go around, under my original line, around, over my original line, and then I'm gonna create a little bit of slack and pull that guy through. Good to go. All right, poncho is all set up, but we have a little bit of a hood. Where the hood at? And one sec, I can't, sorry. Before we carry on, I must tell you guys about the sponsors that make this content possible. So I know that we're talking about some of the primitive stuff, but that doesn't negate the fact that there are still some very basic tools that you as a man should have on hand. First and foremost, lights, whether that is a high power light that goes on your rifle, a high power light that's in your pocket, something that's rechargeable and can take multiple different styles of batteries. And for that, our go-to, without question, is Modlite. Really a high quality brand. Link is in the description. Next, you should be considering night vision. You don't have to have dual tubes, you don't have to have the most expensive stuff, but simple PVS 14s are an absolute game changer. If you guys are curious about some night vision or night vision accessories, you should absolutely go check out Steel Industries. Link and discount code is in the description. And finally, some basic camouflage, whether you're hiding your pack with some scrim, your helmet with some scrim, or maybe you're hiding the flashlight that you just put on your rifle. You should go check out 100 Concepts. Those guys make our content possible every single week. For that, we wanted to thank them for it. All right, back to the shelter building component of this. So you'll notice that there is a gaping hole in the middle of my poncho. And if it is going to rain, that's a problem. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna find the lines that are on this thing, right where I started. And we're gonna want to tie them off. So, well, you get what I'm saying. Tie that thing off, make sure you don't have a hole coming through your tarp.
So one other thing to remember is before you put your bivvy or your sleeping bag or anything like that down, check the ground, just like you would check the trees, check the ground to make sure there's no like fire ants or
Uncles.
like a big bed of ticks or whatever. Uncles.
Ants or uncles?
Oh, that was actually pretty clever. You are a dad now. Just make sure like the area is somewhat clean. And of course, you know, if you are worried about getting too cold at night, you can add a bunch of fluff like leaves and pine needles to offset your body from the ground, because that ground will suck all of the warmth out of your body, which can sometimes be a little handy when it's ultra freaking hot outside. Generally speaking, you want to be sleeping on something, either a cheap accordion style pad or a cheap like $18 blow up little micro mattress.
Yeah.
So
yeah, start simple, graduate from there, but the goal is to at least be able to do it. All that being said, I'm out of water. Do you have any?
No, we use it all for the intro, so we should probably go get some water.
Okay.
Water's next. There's a couple different sources around here, but we're going to try and walk about a half mile further and find the cleanest one, because obviously the water out in the middle of nowhere is not always good to drink. One thing to note, you're not going to be seeing us doing a primitive water filtration method on this video. There will be one soon, mainly because, again, we're trying to do the easiest, use the most easy and accessible tools to the average everyday man. This is stuff that you can go out and buy on Amazon or at Walmart or at any convenience store.
We are looking for water. We would settle for Spindrift.
Oh, yeah. I was very serious. Scratch that, we're gonna do dirty water because we're losing sunlight, and that's actually a consideration you may have. If you don't have enough sunlight, you need to get water, and you don't wanna have to do it in the dark, then you may have to settle for dirty water and doing a more intense treatment and purification process. So we've got a nice little pond slash puddle over here with disgusting water, and we're gonna show you a couple ways to do it with modern, cheap, accessible tools. So I'm going to use a gravity method. I have these two, believe it or not, they're ice bags that I got on Amazon for very cheap. We'll put the links in the description and all that stuff. And one I keep for dirty water collection, and one that the clean water goes into. And they both come with a hose kit, and I'll show you what that looks like. First thing I'm gonna do is unzip this front little panel and take out a Sawyer flow system. It's just a little Sawyer rig with a hose attached to it. And I am literally going to, washing my hands after this is important too, because my hands are going to get wet. And these hold, I think, 5 gallons, but you can only usually get about 2 or 3 in them. I'll just do a little bit of water for now. Really stirring up that mud.
Thanks.
You're welcome. All right, that's a good example of some really nasty, dirty water. It stinks. Roll this bad boy up, close that. Now I can hook this onto the back of my pack and just carry it back to wherever, back to our tents or back to our shelter, and set up the rest of it from there. Josh is doing a different method.
So I'm just gonna be purifying 1 Nalgene worth of water. You don't always have a big bag that you can carry around multiple gallons, but I'm working with this Cane of Provisions card. It ships with multiple sets to be able to filter a Nalgene, or multiple if you want to use most of it up and do like a jerry can or something like that. This little fabric cloth, I'm gonna start by getting it wet. I now have kind of like a brew bag material. I'm gonna lay that over the top of my Nalgene, create a hole in the middle. Not a hole, but a dimple, so to speak. And I'm gonna cinch this around. The purpose for this is to get rid of as much cloudy, dirty material, all the bugs, all the visible crap that I can see. And I'm going to use this to soak up water. Sometimes you kind of have to burp the cloth a little bit. That is not clean water visibly, but we're gonna resolve that and at least make it palatable. Next, I'm gonna use some Aqua Tabs that ship with this Cane of Provisions little pocket. And I also have a Cane of Provisions. This information is inside of this, this card that it comes with. But it says on here, if you're using Aqua Tabs for clear moving water, you're gonna wanna use 1 tablet. If it's cloudy, standing water, use 2 tabs. Well, I will most certainly be using 2 tabs.
It's a 2-tab kind of day.
It really is. You're telling me. Awesome, so I'm gonna wanna let this sit. Let's find out for how long. You're gonna wanna shake well and let it sit for 30 minutes. So So I'm gonna have to shake this. One more thing that you're gonna have to note is my lid and the threads on this bottle went down into the water too. So once this is purified and clean, I can start by using some alcohol wipes that are inside of that Cane of Provisions sleeve. But ultimately, I'm going to want to back off these threads and let that clean, pure water overflow and wash out those threads. That being said, I still need to wait 30 minutes before I can drink this. We'll take Drew's back and see what his system's like.
All right, so we're back at camp. Find a nice, somewhat sturdy little V-notch in a tree that's high up. Just gonna set that up there like that for now. Okay, so we've got the clean one out up here in this pocket. Got the flow system, a little spigot to drink from. And I did put some Cana cards in here because it gives you all the treatment measurements for 3.5 gallons. That is less than 3.5 gallons. So I'm still gonna go by this just to like really knock out whatever might be in there. If this was from a clear stream, this would flow really quickly. The clean one, I'm just going to roll it up. Most of the air is out of it and tie it off like that. And then we will want the nozzle facing up to accept the water flow. I think that will support it, but we shall see. A small plug in here. And probably need to trim that, but we'll leave it just like that and see if it works. Put the sawyer in the other end and then plug into this bad boy. Oh, that is disgusting. Look at all that soot. We may have a tough time with this. All right, so I added some air into this to kind of give it a little bit of extra push because there is quite a bit of soot down there. I can't get it all out. This is not the best method, but it is a cheap one that I've used many times. The dirty water is coming through this. It is filtering through the Sawyer filter and is coming out clean, which this is supposed to effectively take out 99.999% of harmful stuff. What you could do though, and what I would do, is still hit this clean water with some extra iodine tablets and stuff like that, just to knock out, just be 100% safe. I don't always do that on clear running water, but on something like this, I probably will. This is not a super fast method, but if you do this the first thing, like maybe even before you set up your shelter, then it can be filtering while you set up the rest of your stuff, while you set up your shelter, get your fire ready for cooking and for warmth if you need it, and come back to it. And in a couple of hours, this thing will be full. There are certain places in the world where this dirty water is actually pretty clean to them. And their digestive systems and tracts can handle certain things. Here in America, we all drink clean water. We have no immunity built up to anything that could be in here. So just keep that in mind. Also, with this super dirty water, one thing that you may run into is these little filters can get clogged. It's just a filter, it's just catching the bad stuff. So you should have like a back flush option to push the soot back out and make sure that your flow stays nice and consistent and fast.
You may also be thinking, hey, what if I run out of that filtration system? It only has so many gallons that it can actually filter before it's dead. Same with Aquatabs. What if I don't have any or I run out of them? You can always boil it, but for that, you're gonna need a heat source. When it comes to starting a fire, you're gonna need 3 ingredients, and it's just like when you're painting. All of the work, the prep work that's done ahead of time pays dividends to actually execute the task. So you're gonna need, in order, tinder, kindling, and fuel. Think pencil lead, pencil, and something about the size of your arm. Now what Drew is doing is he's grabbing some natural tinder. He's scraping off the bark of this little cedar tree that we have here, not trying to get down to the heartwood where it's actually pulling a lot of moisture through. If you're trying to figure out how wet or dry something is,
This is not a good one.
It's not a good one?
No.
Well, keep going anyway.
Okay.
You're getting a lot of good stuff down here.
Okay, all right.
And he's scraping off a lot of very, very fine, small pieces. We want about a baseball size, a full fistful. You're gonna use up a lot of it if you don't get it the first time. So if you guys are looking for some knives, whether it's a fixed blade or a nice little folder, we're now starting to retail some items and carry products that we enjoy, that we trust and use on our website. Not just knives, but, well, go check it out. You can see for yourself.
if you cut me, I'm gonna cut you.
Okay, that's fair.
It's okay to get more than you need, or if you're just out on a hike and you see the perfect tree, keep a Ziploc bag with you.
A bird's nest.
Rip that stuff off, throw it in the Ziploc bag, put it in your pack, and it's gonna be moving around all day and getting dry and all torn up.
Yep, exactly. Drew's working on finding some kindling here in a moment, and I'm going to be rolling this stuff around in my hands, trying to break up all the tiny little fibers of this, but it is very dry. It's gonna work great for us. Now, if you are out on a hike, maybe with the kids, you don't even have to light a fire while you're out on the hike. If you see a bird's nest, if you see the perfect tree and you wanna just say, hey kids, come do this with me real quick, then you go back home and you start a fire with it, they're gonna remember that forever, and it's gonna be a really cool teaching moment. So keep an eye out for just integrating some of that simple education into day-to-day life. You don't always wanna get to the location where you're like, I have nothing to start a fire. So maybe be a little bit proactive.
Nick, get over here. This is serious business. What you're looking for are dead trees, not rotten, dead, because they don't have any moisture left in them. So here's a good little example. And I've got 2 little piles I'm working on. Some very small, like kind of pencil-ish, and then some thicker ones like an actual like pencil. I'm just picking them off, and I want about a handful of each to get started. You know, if Nick was a tree, he'd be this one. I'd be a rotten one. You notice how it's all discolored on the inside? Might not be the best. It's a little rotten, but it could still work in a pinch.
So we have all of our parts and pieces that range from very, very fine, small, almost sawdust, to pencil lead, to pencils, to as thick as your finger, and then all the way up to your arm for fuel. So down in my little baseball-sized fluff, so to speak, I'm gonna shave some of this off. And I should be able to strike and get some sparks to catch down here. So let's see what happens. You know what else fire does? It is a heck of a morale boost. And there's a reason they call it Ranger TV.
You just stare into it.
Yeah, you just want to sit and stare into it, man.
And you see your whole life.
Oh, I mean, the best conversations in the world ever are around a fire, you know?
Even when no one says a word, those are usually the best ones. I mean, if everything was dry out here, we've done this dozens of times. If it's all dry and there hasn't been rain, you can usually get it going in the first couple strikes. When everything's wet, even the dry wood, you gotta put a lot more time and effort into it. If you're gonna go out and do this and try this, which you should try this, always bring an extra case that has a lighter and other things so that, man, if you've just burned through and exhausted every available method, hey, you know what, you're still okay. One little fun thing to do is to make some take some little Altoids cans and puncture a hole in them, and then you can sit them on a grill or a fire or anything like that, and then take some old t-shirts, cut them up, and just bake them until there's like, you know, not hardly anything left. This is called char cloth. It's not the best way to start a fire, but it can hold an ember. They do typically go out pretty quick, but they're nice to have. But I keep just like a little tin right here. It's a cheat code tin. It's got char cloth. It's got some of these Brown Bear fire plugs, which are super cheap and very effective. And of course a lighter. And this is how you can just make things a little bit easier on yourself. Like one go, and it's good to go. Char cloth, it's probably gonna take a little bit longer, but if you're trying to get some sort of ember, see, and you can literally make this stuff for free. Here's a good tip. You guys always wonder what to get your buddies and stuff for Christmas, but let's be real, money's tight. You don't wanna go out and have to buy something for them. Make them some char cloth tins with some fire plugs and get them a lighter. And I gave these to the boys, like not for Christmas, but just cause I had like 10 of these tins and a bunch of old t-shirts. But cheap little gifts like this go a long way. And of course, keep it all in a dry bag of some sort. I like these Magpul Dakas. Certain ones, they can lose their sealing properties over time. All right, so it has been, let's check the time on this, an hour, which is a little slow. I would have liked it to be a little bit faster if this was clear water to begin with. would have been fine. But all we're gonna do here is disconnect the clean water, disconnect the dirty water, and then we're gonna swap. So technically this is clean. It's all been ran through a Sawyer filter that handles most of the stuff. If you wanna really do your due diligence, you could hit that with some Aqua Tabs, but I just disconnect the clean hose, plug it in, and on this side, you have a little spigot, and you have water. Let's check just how clear this water is. And if you didn't want to have to open up this whole thing and put Aqua Tabs in it, and because you can't really tell how much is in it right now, this is technically a dirty Nalgene right now, but we'll just pretend it's clean. Sit here and fill it up. And then hit your Nalgene with the Aqua Tabs because you know the exact measurement of the water. Significantly cleaner water. Again, it's Sawyer filtered water. So now we could hit this with some Aqua Tabs, shake it up, and be like 100% sure that what you're drinking is good to go. But I'm pretty confident in this. I've drank worse. Tastes like it's ran through a filter. If I get sick, it'll be a week before this video comes out and we'll let you know. Those are just the modern basics, fire, water, shelter, with the things that you can get off the shelf for relatively cheap. These are not the primitive methods. If you couldn't get these, you'd still be screwed. But this is the best way to get your foot in the door, get outside, build some confidence in your abilities, and then you can deep dive into harsher ways to pull this stuff off. There's also way fancier ways and quicker and way more expensive ways to pull this off as well. But the point here is this: if you don't practice this stuff, even if you know it right now, this is a perishable skill. You start to suck at it after a while if you haven't done it. So imagine how bad it is when generations have passed and people haven't learned this stuff. That's why these basic things are actually so important for us to get back to build upon, because inevitably hard times are going to come. And if we don't have a solid foundation to start from as individuals and just the basic level survival with modern tools, man, we're in a bad way. So get out there, touch some grass with the buddies, and put in some work and have some fun.
If you guys want to support us, first and foremost, beating the algorithm is the best way. Leave a comment, hit the sub button. We're not going to say that every time. We're not going to say that at the outset, but it does matter. Next, if you guys want to buy products that you have seen us use in a lot of our content, whether it's slings, gun lube, really nice knives, whether they're folding or fixed, go check out our website. We're starting to add some stuff there. Also, what we just touched on is very foundational and basic without, like Drew said, going high to the Gucci or low to the primitive. If you want more information on any of that stuff, you're gonna need to go take a class from someone like Mitch over at Agonic. He does a stellar job, lots of life experience in that. Also, we do have a Patreon that gets content like this early and some extra content that doesn't really end up going anywhere else. So, thank you for watching and thank you for supporting.
Yeah, I forgot Shogun, man.
Yeah, that ended.
I know. I can't wait for season 2.
Bad ending. There'll never be a season 2.
What?
That's
no,
it.
it got renewed. I saw.
There's no way.
It got renewed.
It's done. No,